when you disagree, do it without being disagreeable. And frankly, fight tooth and nail for every single thing you believe in. It is not passivity that will make this country great. It is our ability to engage in the most important cultural interactions that this nation will have, and that will make our future bright.
Today I'm joined by Senator Tim Scott of South Carolina. Senator Scott was the first African American to be elected to both the U.S. House and U.S. Senate. He's a small business owner and is the author of the recently released book, America, A Redemption Story. Senator Scott, thanks for being here today.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
There are a number of topics I wanted to cover with you today, but I thought we would jump right into the most important things. And it's an issue that is a sensitive one in America, and it's the issue of race.
Yes.
And in your book, you talk about kind of one of your earliest memories of your experience with racism.
Yes.
And it's what you refer to as DWB. And I wonder if you could share a little bit about that story.
Yes, driving while black. It was one of those painful experiences, June 1987, when I was driving through a small town, and literally a stop, officer comes through the car, hand on his gun, have my girlfriend, who was Filipino at the time, in the car, and there was just such pain and misery and disrespect in the moment, and a sense of humiliation. It makes you small. And one of the things I talk about in the book is that it leaves scar tissue. It doesn't just go away when the incident is over. And I think it's important for me to share the pain that I've experienced, because I'm such a huge fan of law enforcement that I wanted to make sure that people have a view of both sides of the ledger so that they understand and appreciate the magnitude of the difficulties I've had, but also the blessings. And so as you read the book, America, A Redemption Story, you get to see both sides of the ledger on all the topics that I cover. I don't sugarcoat any of it. I try my best to be as vulnerable as possible so that you can see the actual experience.
One of the things that you talk about in the book is your grandfather,
Yes.
who was a father figure for you growing
Absolutely.
up. And you said you talk about you only have seen him cry a few times.
Exactly.
And one of those times was in 2008. And I wonder if you might talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you talk about the story of America's evolution in the right direction. You think about a man, Artis Ward, born in 1921. White person is coming, you step off the sidewalk, you don't make eye contact, the consequences could be your life. Live long enough in this amazing country where you get an opportunity to go vote for the first African American president. Think about the life he lived as a kid, where he was forced out of school in the third grade. He didn't learn to read or write. And yet he remained optimistic about who we were going to be as a country. And to live long enough to see us come to much of that, to experience that greatness of America, leaving the voting booth where I took him in there and pushed Barack Obama's name for him and said, "Granddaddy, you hit that green button there," and he hit the green button. The pride that overwhelmed him, and to see the tears on his cheeks for the second time in my life, was just something you'll never forget.
Yeah, I like when you relay the story in the book. You talked about how he said, you understand it doesn't matter if he wins or loses.
Yeah, he was. The fact that we had gotten to the place where this was even a possibility. You remember back in the day, his day, it wasn't making a difference. It was just being in the room. And a similar feel that he had for being on the ballot. That any major party, any major group of people who happened to be white, putting him on the ballot was an accomplishment beyond comprehension. So it was a special day.
Yeah, absolutely. How do you think the things that you have been through, if we had more time, I would touch on this. You said there were 3 pivotal moments in your life: the car accident,
Yes.
advice from the mechanic,
Yes.
and then having a father figure.
Yes.
How do you think those moments, the pain and the scars that you've faced from racism, how do you think that those moments have shaped you and made you the leader that you are today?
I think it's made me a much more sensitive person. I think the truth is that every tragedy that we go through, whether it's as a nation or as an individual, can lead to the greatest triumph you've ever seen. I believe that the deeper the valley, the darker the night, the brighter the morning, the better your opportunities. And so the question is, I'm a big believer in Romans 8:28, that all things work together for good for those who love God and that are called according to his purpose. I think if you continue down the road, good things happen. And so what I've tried to do is to take the misery of my past and make it a blessing or a miracle for somebody else coming. So I don't think God wastes any negative experience in our lives. The question is, do we get bitter or do we become better? And the choice is necessary. And sometimes it's minute by minute, not day by day. You literally have to choose to make your bad situations make you better and not make you bitter. If you can do that, the best is yet to come.
How do we engage with people who are on the other side of the aisle, different opinions, policy from us, and still maintain relationship?
You know, I think that it comes back to Scripture, by the way, and I say it in my book too, America Redemption Story. There's something powerful about the concept that all of the truth, the gospel, is built on two basic scriptures: Matthew 22:37 and 39. Loving the Lord your God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength, and to love your neighbor as yourself. I think we have a responsibility to love our neighbors as ourselves. It doesn't mean that we have to accept everything they do, but we have to love them. And when we have that as a nexus for our interaction, I think we're better off. We should defend who we are and defend what we think is in the best interest of this country, but that does not mean we make our opponent evil. I think we just make our opponent our opponent. And I think that goes a long way when we do that.
You say loving your neighbors means the hate has no home here sign or the Make America Great Again sign in their yard plays no role in whether or not you say good morning, how are you, and really care about the answer. Love the neighbor who proudly flies the Confederate flag or the LGBTQ flag or the American flag or the BLM flag, or most especially the Dallas Cowboys flag, which of course I agree with. And it says, I challenge you to become love in the face of hate. Choose optimism in the face of cynicism. Identify with grace rather than scorn.
Absolutely. Loving your neighbor does not mean embracing or agreeing with all their views. It simply means following the steps of Jesus.
For people that are out there that are watching this interview and who have been following you and have now read about your story in the book, what would you say as a kind of a final message to them about not only where is America headed from here, what is our redemption story from here on out, but talk a little bit about too, you say the importance of making miracles in people's lives.
Yes. Well, I think every day we have an opportunity to be the miracle that we seek. And one of the ways that we do that is by how we treat our fellow brothers and sisters in this country. America's future is incredibly bright. One of the things I talk about in the last chapter is America 2070. We should be sowing seeds today, according to Galatians 6:7, that we know those seeds are going to germinate. And then verse 9 says, if you don't faint, you will get a harvest. If we would start thinking with the end in mind, Stephen Covey in his 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, he says begin with the end in mind. Well, that's right out of the scripture. And so truly is if we can begin with the end in mind and work our way back to where we are and treat our fellow citizens with great respect and admiration. When you disagree, do it without being disagreeable. And frankly, fight tooth and nail for every single thing you believe in. It is not passivity that will make this country great. It is our ability to engage in the most important cultural interactions that this nation will have, and that will make our future bright.
For those that are out there that are feeling discouraged, have experienced some of the things that you've been through, depression, despair, what would you say to them today?
Well, I'd say Ephesians 3:20. God is able to do exceedingly abundantly above all that we ask or imagine. The truth is that if you don't quit, you will win. And the definition of that victory will differ based on your circumstances. But the truth is one of the most important lessons that you can get from John Maxwell is to fail forward.
Senator Scott, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir. Good to be with you.